Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi ta'ala barakatuh. Alhamdulillah rabbil alamin wassalatu wassalamu ala asyrafil anbiya'i wal mursalin wa ala alihi wa sahbihi ajma'in. Alhamdulillah, we are still discussing on chapter 5, that is this positive Islamic psychology model or Islamic psychology model, which we have developed by Professor Muhammad Jenkins and myself. Allah yarham, he developed this model. And remember, this model we are talking about, this is the first model we talk about our positive Islamic psychology, where it is actually derived from initially with his discussion with B.F. Skinner. That is when he was a protege of B.F. Skinner, doing experiment with B.F. Skinner before he became a Muslim. So he brought this idea of inner speech, that human beings have free will and have inner speech. So we are affected by our physical environment, our social, inter-social environment, and for the animal model, we have no inner speech, no consciousness. But he brought this idea of consciousness and inner speech so that the human self will have the body, they have the physical environment, social environment, and inner speech, which affect our perception, and that perception will affect our outcome or behavior. At that point, he did not bring the question of the spiritual realm because he is still an atheist at that time. But later on, when he developed positive Islamic psychology and the Khalifa method, he brought this idea of the three realms of existence, which are the four realms of existence: the spiritual, emotional, mental, and physical self, and the Al-Ghazali model that we have adopted as part of our moving forward in terms of the nature of the human self. So this is the first model from our book, and it is on the cover of our book. This is the most comprehensive model of psychology for Muslims and non-Muslims, because we are talking about the most comprehensive nature of human self, which include the spiritual realm, the emotional realm, the qalb, that is the heart, the mental realm, that is both the conscious and subconscious and supraconscious, the mind, and the physical self. And our self is the interplay between these four aspects of realms in which we exist. So how then this free will affects the perception? Because your inner speech will be driven by the perception and by all this physical and social environment and your life experience in the term that we use, TPLH, that is total past learning history, the sum total of your behavior, your choice that you make based on free will then affect your inner speech. So how are we going to mold that aspect of ourselves so that we have positive inner speech and we bring ourselves towards understanding the nature of our choice and responsibility? Because this is very important. How we look at choice and responsibility is in the book. The other diagram of the model is how personal choice and responsibility affects our self. So if we look at this diagram, which is in this book also, which you can read the detail, but I'm just giving you an overview. The human self, the total past learning history of our positive Islamic psychology model, we have personal choice and responsibility in our thoughts, action, habits, and behavior. So all the interplay between whatever that is happening in terms of the physical realm, in terms of the mental realm, in terms of the emotional realm or the heart, or in terms of the spiritual realm, this interplay will give you the sum total of who you are. So if that is the case, then how are we going to proceed? All our thoughts, action, habits, and behavior will then develop what we call either a positive TPLH or negative TPLH. You have either positive or negative. So you, each day, each moment, you are impinged by more than 50,000 thoughts, processes, feelings, emotion, thoughts, FET, feeling, emotion, thoughts, that is interplaying in yourself at every moment, whether in the night or in the day, except only when you are in the REM sleep. In the REM sleep, you also will have the interplay where you have your dream state. That is another issue in which we can describe about of the good inner state in terms of dream state and the bad inner state in terms of dream state. This has been described by Muslim theologians and metaphysicians in terms of dream interpretation for so many centuries ago, and it is very powerful tool of understanding the nature of our inner speech and our self. So there is an interplay there of whatever that you are will then be interpreted in terms of your dreams also. So in a way, but then It's a specialized knowledge, specialized skill. We're not going to get into dream interpretation, but we are going to talk about personal choice and responsibility in terms of our thoughts, action, habits, and behavior. So if through our model, as I mentioned earlier on, you have taken the positive thoughts, action, habits, and behavior, then you develop a positive TPLH. Your total positive TPLH, your life on this sum total of your all positive and negative. So if you have the negative development of TPLH, these are the negative self in terms of doing terrible things in life or negative things in life. For example, in terms of in life being, for example, going into drug addiction, going to hedonistic lifestyle, going into alcohol addiction, going into video addiction, going so many addiction. So all the negative things is, especially in the modern world, is actually a form of addiction. Addiction to so many things that is actually impinging on us. So we develop this negative view of the self, and we also develop the positive view of the self. So there's always an interplay between these two. The sum total on earth is the both positive and negative TPLH. So you have both positive thoughts, action, habits, and behavior. You have negative thoughts, you have negative, and you have positive. Total up is what you are. All right, so what we are is our total sum. So how then we are going to mold more of the positive and less of the negative? Because if we are always having negative, then we have this problem that we are facing today in terms of the runaway problem of anxiety, the runaway problem of depression, the runaway problem of suicidal tendencies, and suicide itself, very high level of suicides in normally, for example, advanced countries. People who are fully fed, they are not hungry, they are not dying hunger, but they are dying of the hunger of the self. The self is meaningless. The self is in turmoil. And the self could not even be kept calm. For example, the recent story of Elon Musk, one of the richest men on earth. He could not sleep. He has no way of sleeping because the negative thoughts or the stress, the anxiety, the fear of living, where he has billions and billions and billions of dollars, to the extent that he has to take this sleeping tablet called Ambien to go to sleep. Either that or he will be awake all night, could not sleep. He's a rich man. And he can have as many girlfriends as he wishes to. He can fool around and do everything. He can have the most hedonistic lifestyle. He can have the most, most beautiful woman to have sex with, and so on. Yet, he found no peace, no happiness, no joy. Even though he is the owner of SpaceX, he's the owner of Tesla car, he's the owner of so many things. And he cried. In the interview recently, he cried. So you can see this inner dilemma of human beings in this modern society, because they do not have this balance of the spiritual, emotional, mental, and physical balance in terms of the positive values and the positive way of life. So our sum total need not be just a physical realm, because if we emphasize on the physical, you have all the food in the world, you have all the sex in the world, you have all the amenities, private jet, super yacht, whatever that is. It will not give you the ultimate understanding of the nature of existence on this earth. So if you can understand that we have to shift this towards a more holistic self, that means we have an understanding of the realm of the spiritual, of our connection and our love to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Because in Islam, the basis of our existence, if the basis of this deen is love. Love for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, who's our creator, who's our master, who give us this wonderful life for us to exist in terms of understanding and realizing His grandeur, His glory, and His mercy, His compassion, His care, His concern. So we approach life through this concept of love. So we develop a positive inner self at the spiritual level, at the emotional level, at the mental level, at the physical level. So the sum total here will be more. This will be less. So if we have more negative, we will fail in life. Even though, as I say, regardless whether it's Elon Musk or whether it is the richest man on earth, or whether it is young people who are now dying and committing suicide, at a very high rate because of the meaningless and because of the frustration and anguish of small things in which they could not understand. All right? Then we shift this and we have more positive total past learning history and we have success in life. Why this is important? Because inshallah we are going to develop our youth life coach program. Inshallah we're going to upload this youth life coach program free of charge. We're going to do this da'wah throughout the world online, through videos, through animation, through coaching, mentoring, counseling. So we have these 4 elements that we are going to, inshallah, launch. After I finish the series of these lectures here, we'll go into this life coach training program, free of charge, especially for young people, so that you develop more positive total past learning history, especially you are young. So you are young, you can then get rid of this, have more of this, then you have the joy, the happiness, the fulfillment of life, the love of Allah, and in return His love to you. And then we can then develop a wonderful happy self, a wonderful happy family, a wonderful happy couple, a wonderful happy ummah, and so on. And then we can invite those who are empty in their hearts of truth, of iman, of Islam, of ihsan, that we have a model, we have a way forward, and we can bear everybody in the world. But first and foremost, we Muslims must get away from our negativity, because there's a lot of negative development among the ummah in terms of violence, in terms of cursing and swearing at other people, sectarianism, tribalism, murder, killing in the name of Islam, using all kind of nonsensical ideologies that got nothing to do with Islam but labeling it as Islam. So these are the destructive forces that we have to confront. We have to correct them in a way, gently bringing them to the understanding of the intrinsic nature, the intrinsic beauty, the intrinsic truth of this deen, that we are going to reach out to as many as possible. We have 1.7 billion Muslims. Our aim in Islamic psychology is to reach out to all of you, especially you young people out there. Subscribe to our video channel, then later on subscribe and be part of our da'wah to train as many thousands of young life coach to help younger people, to help the community, to help those in the mosque and outside the mosque, those who are suffering, those who are having problems in terms of addiction, those who are suffering in terms of anxiety, depression, and thinking of committing suicide and so on, that we can help them and bring them towards a balance in life, towards the peace, the happiness, the joy of Iman and Islam, inshallah.